Before we start, I just want you guys to type any questions into the chat room if you have them on a specific topic, and I'll try to address them while I'm speaking real time. Today we're going to talk about how to assess your risk, your personal risk and your business risk, and extend your cash runway during the COVID crisis. I'm going to outline 4 steps to maximize your cash flow and manage through what could be an extended downturn for your business. And that's going to involve preparing various revenue and funding scenarios so that you have a plan when conditions change, or you have multiple plans when conditions change. Okay, so just my background, I'm currently an outsourced CFO resource advisor for venture-backed companies. I was a financial analyst, analyzing and investing in both public companies. For the last 10 years, I've been an early stage investor, primarily through Golden Seeds. And I've started 4 businesses. This is my 4th on my own, so I know the processes and I know the ups and downs. I'm also a venture partner with 1843 Capital, which is a first-time fund that invests in mostly women-backed, but not all businesses. And then I'm a mentor and through a number of different accelerators, and I'm an advisor not only to HAYVN but to a few other companies. So I'm just very much in this early stage space, and really focused on trying to help as many entrepreneurs succeed, because it's just so powerful. So that's my personal motivation. As Felicia pointed out, cash runway is my favorite topic, so today we're going to talk about extending your cash runway, and there's 4 steps to that. And given that we're a good 12 weeks into the COVID crisis, you may already have considered much about what I'm going to suggest, but maybe there's an opportunity or 2 that you haven't yet thought of that might have an impact on your business. So presumably you're interested, or you want to be on this call. So I'm going to get going. So the first thing that you need to do is assess your risk. Sorry. Okay. So accounts receivable is probably the most important. So what you need to do is go customer by customer and assess those customers' ability to pay, when you think they might pay, and make calls to those customers that have past due bills. And if you have a bigger company, you may have somebody junior handling that responsibility. But I think during these times, it's really important that you or somebody very senior in your organization is making those calls to both reflect the importance that you're placing on getting those receivables in the door, but then also just that whole assessment piece, and negotiation, right? Because you could offer to negotiate a slight discount if they paid you faster. You could ask them to pay you via Zelle or ACH, which is quicker. The intent is to get the cash that you're due in the door as fast as possible, and also determine if there's a low likelihood of receiving payment, then you got to take them out of your cash flow projections, because you're not going to get that cash. So then the same thing are on the flip side, on your payables. You have to ask yourself, can I negotiate terms? Can I pay overtime? Can I pay full but get a discount? Like, just think about it on the reverse. Everybody's doing this right now, so it's not embarrassing. You're not being a bad person. Everybody's trying to extend their cash runway as long as they can. So it's worth having a conversation, because you just don't know what situation the other entity is in. Inventory, if you have inventory, you probably already canceled or stopped all non-essential product or supplies, but really ask yourself, what can you not live without? And if it's not on that list, then do not receive, or do not order, do not receive. And then ask yourself, can you find cash in any excess or clearance in inventory? The next is debt covenants. So if you have any debt, you have certain covenants on that debt, and they could be things like interest coverage. It could be things like debt to equity ratio. And if you don't have those covenants at the top of mind, grab the document and remind yourself and calculate where you are. And if you're close at all, you need to communicate with the lender, and you need to monitor it weekly or even daily if it's necessary. If you have a line of credit, reconfirm that it's,
Could you try it again?
sorry, reconfirm it's available, or take it down so that you have it on your balance sheet. I don't know that that's so necessary anymore, because it feels like we're kind of past crisis mode, but share your plans with your lender, with your banker, and your cash projections. Share it so they know that you're on top of it. And understand any guarantees that you've made personally, both on your business and on your personal life. Make a list if you haven't done this, tally them up. Quite often with entrepreneurs, we mix our business with our personal, and it's really important that you understand your total exposure personally. You're going to have to evaluate your sales pipeline if you're a B2B. And I'm going to go into more detail later about how the steps for reforecasting your revenue, but understanding the likelihood that deals are going to close in today's environment versus maybe 5 months ago, and how much time it's going to take is really important for you to assess customer by customer. Then looking at operating expenses, it's human nature to underestimate the downside. So the point of the exercise here is to plan for different scenarios, to know in advance what you're going to do if revenue drops to a new level. And you need to reduce both fixed and variable expenses. You should consider everything. Where can you trim without fundamentally hurting your business? Can you renegotiate contracts? The reality is you should be cutting costs more rather than less now. And whatever your first instinct is, you're probably off by somewhere between 20 and 50%. You want to consider making staffing changes, but protecting the key employees that are going to both help you get through this crisis and then help you reinvigorate growth when your conditions improve. So then all of this needs to be put together in a cash runway, again, which I'll go into more in a second, because you need to know what your monthly cash burn or your cash usage is and how many months of cash you have in each one of these scenarios that I'm talking about developing. If revenue is 50% of your plan or 10% of plan, you're going to want to know, well, if it's 50%, I'm going to do this, this, and this. If it's 10, I'm only going to have to do this. And you want to share those plans with your key personnel, those who have responsibility for budgets, for making decisions, for making, who have spending authority. Everyone needs to understand your company's situation. Of course, your banker does too. I guess that goes without saying, but I'm suggesting key personnel should be made aware. Okay, let me flip over here. So the next piece then is to create your cash. And I'm suggesting that you assume there's an impact to both existing contracts and business that you have already in the door, and then new business. So new business can take longer to close. It's going to close at a lower conversion rate, and it's going to affect not just 2020, but 2021. Remember, I'm not being negative Nelly, but the point of this whole exercise is to plan for the bad stuff that happens. If everything's okay, then you don't have to use the plans, but good for you, you had them. It's really important to be realistic when you're doing this. So I just grabbed these. This is a composite GDP forecast. It's a couple weeks old. It's Wall Street analysts. It's some economic forecasting institutions. But it's showing a really bad second quarter and then kind of a pretty quick recovery. So I would call that a V/modified U-shaped recovery. None of us know what's going to happen. And so my suggestion is to plan for multiple scenarios. And so I just kind of outlined how I might think about changing my sales for Q2. This is obviously versus a year ago, and Q3 and Q4. And the ranges are maybe a little too tight, but we may get a V shape. That's what some people, Wall Street people, the market certainly looks like we're getting a V-shaped recovery. But it could be a canoe shape, meaning it could take, you know, many quarters for it to come back. So my suggestion is to assume that the current slow environment is going to last for several quarters. Assume that if it hasn't already been done, that people are going to try to renegotiate existing contracts with you. As I said, if you're B2B, you should be looking at each sales prospect and probability weight their conversion. Or if you're D2C, you should be tracking your AOV and how it's changed over time, like weekly, and your conversion rates daily, and make sure that if it's declining AOV or conversion, that you're testing things to kind of improve the situation. Can you consider new revenue streams that you wouldn't have thought of before in this environment? So maybe, I mean, a lot of apparel manufacturers have started selling masks, for instance. So maybe there's an opportunity. That was a pretty simple one, but the point is be creative. So just a second more on operating expenses. Be proactive. Don't wait for revenues to drop further. I assume you've already asked for any forbearance on mortgage or loan payments. That's probably behind you. Don't do any prepaid expenses. Pay month to month. I know it saves you money, but now's not the time to do it. Marketing expenses, depending on what your the scenario is. In the worst case, canoe shaped scenario, eliminate everything but the high ROI efforts. And I hope you're measuring your marketing spend. Eliminate all your critical capital expenditures and other expenses. Your goal is to get to 6 to 12 months of cash runway. Venture-backed companies, ideal is 18 to 24 months, but that's not really very realistic at this point, but it's what they would like to see. So then you need to put it all together in a cash runway model. And when you're running these scenarios, you're trying to understand, if revenue drops to this and I cut these additional expenses, how long can I last? So you might be thinking, how do I put this all together? And if you have your own model already, then it's very easy to modify. It's easy to modify, hopefully, and just you can save them under different versions. If you don't have a model, my firm created a free Excel-based tool that requires minimal Excel skills or finance knowledge, and it's just something that we did to try to help companies get through the crisis. And it provides 24 months of your cash runway, starting at the month of your choosing, and based on as many as 3 scenarios, which is what I recommend that you do. It's very easy to either input the data, which would be kind of payroll information and operating expenses, and then sales, either sales actually, or the components of sales in your case, or you can link them from an existing Excel file. It's for any type of business, for a micro business, a startup, a small medium business, for anything. This is a picture of one of the outputs. So you can see the 3 scenarios, and there's no data in there, so it doesn't give you the exact. And then here's just another picture of your monthly cash flow. So you can see in this scenario, it's all negative. And if you want a copy, you can go to our website, museadvisors.com, and on the upper right-hand corner is a button that says free cash tool. And you just fill out the form, and we'll send you your very own copy in Excel. It's yours to do with what you wish. I really believe it's very easy. There's YouTube videos on there which try to make it super simple, but provide you with some robust insights. So the next step, so now we're up to step 3, is to seek new sources of cash. And I'm sure you've all done the applications for the PPP and the EDIL. The point I wanted to make today was there are a lot of new rulings and new opportunities coming out of these relief programs. And if you all don't know the Women's Business Development Council in Stanford, that's run by Fran Pastor, you should get to know it, because these guys are very on top of all of the intricacies. They've become a very important partner for the reopening task force, for the state, for various groups within the state. I was on a call with Fran this morning, and there's going to be a new hopefully working with a fund for women and minority-owned companies in the state of Connecticut, microloans like $5,000. Cuomo just announced one from the state of New York. Fran is talking with them about administering one for the state of Connecticut. There's also an element about you can use some of the funds for daycare, all sorts of nuances. They're changing, but the counselors at WBDC are on top of it, and they will pick up the phone and talk to you. So just it's a super resource in these times. So I would definitely send you that way. And then lastly is communicate with all relevant parties, with your senior management, your key employees, with your lenders, with your investors if you're venture backed. You can't over communicate. You just need to convince them that you're on the ball, that you have contingency planned, that you know what you're going to do in scenarios A, B, and C. And if they feel confident that you have a plan, they're going to feel confident in you, and they're going to be more likely to help you through. If they need to make some accommodations, they're going to feel a lot better about it knowing that you've done this planning already. So it's an exercise. It is going to take time. I just firmly believe it's very useful, a good source of time, good use of time, and the tool that we created should make it relatively painless. So the more of you that use it, the better. And then it's not a static plan. You want to continue to revise and revisit your plans, because everything changes. Everything's changing. So I'm trying to get back to the Zoom. We there? Am I still on?
Did you guys lose me?
No, you're there. You're there.
Good. I can't find there it is. I couldn't find my Zoom window. So that's it. That's the end of the presentation. Happy to take any questions or explain in further detail. Anything wasn't. Hi, Siobhan.
Hi.
How are you, hon?
Good.
Anyone have any questions? Is there anything I can explain in more detail?
Heidset, you're on mute, Heidset.
I don't have a question, but I'm immediately wanting a workshop where we can dive more. I wish there would be like a group of 10 businesses that, okay, step one, look, what's the #1 thing you can do? And step 2. So that's kind of where I am. I appreciate the breakdown. So it allows me to see what I can do over time. And I definitely will download that tool so that I can at least think in 3 or 4 scenarios about what's happening. I've never thought of it this way. I'm too small of an operation, but you know, we all have to do this. Get ready for whatever comes ahead.
What's your business?
Oh, I have an online educational company. So
Okay.
we develop online courses and workshops and kind of help people develop solutions to improve performance. So we've worked with large government, we've worked with small businesses, and my goal is to expand operations right now. So that's why I joined. I want to really have a good understanding of the finances.
Awesome. So the WBDC also has a bunch of programs that would be their workshops, or their like a kind of a mini MBA program that they're very relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people there. They have a great resource. Yeah.
Good. I'm obviously a big fan of what they do there at WBDC.
Do you offer like a 1-day workshop with your tool or something like that? I know you say people can download it, but I was thinking.
I haven't thought of that. Did you try to have at it, Felicia?
I tried a little bit. It's like, I think I need to be more, I went back to my spreadsheet just more because there was so many, I have so many operating expenses. Like, you know what, filling it all in started getting a little cumbersome for me.
Okay.
But
All right, well, maybe we can talk offline about that and see if
that was me just more being lazy. I'm like, okay, I think I can.
I know it's a hurdle to if you already have a cash runway in your own model, then you're better off doing that, right? And you just save them as different scenarios. But also they can be linked too.
Oh, I see.